What's up, book besties? Welcome to another episode of She's All Books, where we dive into the raddest reads that will totally blow your mind. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's chat all things books. Because life's too short for boring stories. Ready? Let's get this book party started. Hey, book besties! Welcome to this episode of She's All Books. Here with me for this episode is Gloria Tucker. Gloria, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited too, and I'm really pumped because this is the first time I'm interviewing a bookstagrammer and not an author for this episode. So you'll see if you're watching that Gloria's hashtag, or her handle, I should say, not hashtag. Oh my goodness, her handle is underneath of her name. So Gloria's Bookshelf. If you're driving or listening and not watching, it is at Gloria's Bookshelf. I'll make sure that it's linked in the caption so that you all can quickly click and connect with Gloria on Instagram and any other platform that you are on. Gloria, are you also on TikTok?
I am also on TikTok, same handle, so that's super easy to find.
Perfect. Awesome. So if you are on Bookstagram or Book Talk, you can find Gloria at Gloria's Bookshelf. And I'm excited because I had to get creative and think of some new questions that are Bookstagrammer focused versus like writing focused and planning focused and authoring focused. So I'm excited for this episode. I have some fun questions for you, Gloria. I can't wait for us to dive in. And we're still going to use the paper fortune teller format. So we're going to use that to get us started and dive into these questions. Do you have any questions for me, Gloria, before we start with this paper fortune teller?
No, I'm just excited to dive into it. Let's go.
I'm so excited too. And before we start, one of the questions that I don't have on here, but I'm curious, and I think that this would kind of give the audience like a background knowledge about you and something that I would love to learn about you as well. But what got you into Bookstagram? Like, what made you create your account and get going with Bookstagram?
I don't know. So I haven't been doing this long. I just started my account March of this year. And so I know. And so I was actually talking to my friend Maddie, who also created a Bookstagram because of me. And I was like, I think I'm going to do this. And she said, do it. And because I think I came across someone's book account and I was like, I love yapping about books and I was annoying, I feel like, my friends and family who don't read. And so I was like, I just want to find like a place where I can just go and post about my books. And so I just randomly joined. I think it was on a Tuesday. I randomly joined and it has been so crazy how much my Bookstagram has taken my reading and how, I mean, I've been doing so much over less than a year and I have so much going on start of the new year. So I got big plans. So I'm super excited.
I'm really excited to see and learn what your big plans are as they happen. What is your current follower account? Because you blew up really quickly when you made your account. Like, you instantly had success. I think you
Yes.
You focus a lot on reels and you had some really big reels. And so what is your current follower account? You don't have to tell me an exact, but like what range?
Yeah. I'm sitting at 22.6 thousand. Yeah, thousand followers. Yeah.
That is so impressive. And for reference, like, I have been on Instagram, Bookstagram forever, like double your length. And I'm like excited to be in the thousands. So
Yeah.
that is amazing. And if you're watching this and you have a smaller account, don't be discouraged. The algorithm is so crazy. It changes all the time.
It does. It does.
And
It really
it
does.
focuses on accounts that are newer sometimes. Sometimes it focuses on accounts that are older. It's just constantly changing. So don't get discouraged. But any tips that Gloria shares with us, we will definitely eat them up in this episode. And hopefully some of the questions will guide us towards Gloria, her content, what she loves, what she reads, tropes, etc. So we'll get diving in before I answer all the questions, or you answer all the questions before we get started. I have to ask, because I ask everybody, what did you call this? A paper fortune teller or a cootie catcher?
Cootie catcher.
A cootie catcher. Okay. Where did you grow up? Like, where did you spend most of your like young child life?
Like, where do I live? Or
Yeah, so were you where when you were playing this as a kid, where were you living?
like so I live in Kentucky and I remember we just played with that in school. Like we'd just be in class or at recess doing those. And honestly, it's kind of crazy. It's crazy how the brain works because, like, I knew what you had, but when you said cootie catcher, I was like, oh my God, that's what it is. Like, I couldn't think of that until you asked me that question. I was like, yeah, that's what
A
it
lot
is.
of people say that. A lot of people are like, and I was like, if I say, what did you call this? They'll be like, I can't remember. And I'm like, was it a paper fortune teller or cootie catcher? And they're like, cootie catcher, or
Yeah,
they'll like
cootie catcher.
instantly remember.
Yes.
And I was asking where you grew up because I've noticed it's kind of regional. So people in certain states, people in certain regions of the United States or Canada tend to call it the same thing. And so I was wondering, I'm doing my own little like data collection.
Oh, you're fine. When I lived in Florida for like a year, because I do have some family
Okay.
down there, so I lived down there for a year. And so obviously I'm Southern. And when I moved to Florida, I worked at retail and they sent us out to go get the buggies. And they're like, I was like, oh, you want me to go get the buggies? They're like, the what? I was like, what'd you call it? They call them shopping carts. And I called it a
Right.
buggy. And it's the same thing with the trash cans here. They call them trash cans and like other things, but I call it a Herbie Kirby. So it's like,
What? I have
yeah,
never heard of a Herbie Kirby
yeah.
ever. That is
That's
weird.
what I just was like grown up calling a trash can is a Herbie Kirby.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. I've never heard of it called that. I lived in Michigan for like 11 months, not even a full year. And somebody referred to what I call a water fountain, like, in the mall or at school,
Yeah.
the water fountains you walk up to and you can drink out of. They called it a bubbler. And I was like, what? And they're a bubbler. And I'm like, there's no bubbles.
Yeah.
Like, but okay, whatever you were saying. And there's a couple different terms that they used in
I've
Michigan.
never heard it called. I called it a water fountain.
A water fountain. Yeah. Tumbler. I'm like, okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's funny how words change, like,
Yes.
in different states and everything. So, well, whatever you call this, a paper fortune teller or a cootie catcher, we're going to have fun and use this. If you're new to the podcast, don't use this the traditional way. It's just more for fun and the millennial nostalgia, kind of like the lava lamp and the retro 90s phone. But I'll give a quick little 101. There's colors on the outside. On the inside, there's numbers. I used to play it in school where you'd like ask it a question, like yes, no, maybe questions, but I know that there's many ways you could play it. We're going to use the numbers 1 through 8, which is hard to see until this is published. We're going to use the numbers to correspond with questions that I have for Gloria. So you're going to hear me spell some of these colors more than you'd like to hear me spell these colors, but it's all for fun. All right, so the color options that I will repeat so you don't have to memorize these are pink, green, orange, or purple. Which one would you like to start
Well, let's start with pink.
with? Pink, that was like the number one chosen. Pink, 2, 3, 6, or 7.
Let's do 3.
3? All right. Question number 3. And I have all my questions ready to go for you. And I sent some questions over to Gloria before, since like she's the first Bookstagrammer I'm having. And I switched the order up so that you could not memorize them. Just 1 second. Let me. Okay. Question number 3. What was your instant message AIM, so AOL Instant Messenger, screen name growing up, if you can remember it? And a second part to that question is, what would your away message be right now?
Oh my gosh. So I truly don't remember. I remember like this was on like email, but like when I was a kid, and I'm pretty sure it was also my AIM name, screen name. I think it was like GK Cheerstar, and I never cheered. I never cheered. So that's like the only thing that comes to memory. I know I had a MySpace, but golly, MySpace was so popular, and I'm like, it's been so long. I'm like, it makes me so mad I don't remember what that was because it's probably classic.
I know, I love it. I feel like cheer was super popular for us millennial women,
Yes.
in the screen names and stuff for AIM. I think that like mine had something to do with like field hockey. So clearly there was like a trend. It's like, what is your hobby? Bam, add numbers to it.
Yes.
I love it. Perfect. And then what would your away message be right now if you had to pick one? Or it could be like a bookish away message.
It would probably be falling in love with another fictional character again. Because
Love
I'm constantly falling in love with more fictional characters every day.
That is perfect. I agree. I would probably copy your white message. All right. Pink, green, orange, or purple?
Let's do green.
All right. Now I have to spell it. Green. 2, 6, or 7, since you already answered 3.
Let's do 7.
7. All right. And this is me writing down each number because I will start to ask you the same thing over and over again. All right, question number 7. I'm dying to know, and it's okay if you don't know the exact answer to this. You can always just like guess, but what was your most successful post on Bookstagram? Do you remember?
So, like, would you say that would be my most real with most views would be my most
I would say like a
successful?
reel with the most views or like anything that kind of went, we'll
But
use
yeah.
reel loosely.
So I currently have a video that's sitting at like 12.2 million views. So that is my most successful reel. And the funny
Mhm.
thing about this reel is I film once a week when I make content. And so like I will have 10 or 12 reels just sitting in my drafts ready to post because I work full time.
Right.
So I had this sitting in my drafts probably for like a month. And it was just, I get a lot of inspiration with TikTok on Book Talk as well. So that's where the inspo for this video came from. But it was basically like me stacking all my books. And it was like, I don't read because I'm smart. I read because I have the mind of a slut and the heart. And I have the heart of a married woman. So I have to live vicariously through all my books. And so, and like, yes, it was so funny because like so many Bookstagrammers who like I'm friends with, they would DM me like, "Oh my God, my friend sent this to me," because it also connected to Facebook Reels. So like it just popped off. Like I really did not expect it to just blow up, but I will say I had a lot of hate on it too, but it was mostly just from like men. But I was like, you know what? My husband's very like supportive of my reading journey, so we kind of like
Yeah.
just giggled about it. And it's crazy because like there's a really long period of time where it was blowing up. Like my phone was constantly, I was getting follows, I was getting comments, I was getting all these things. I was like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? And then it died down. But like this reel has been viral for probably over a month, and it's still constantly in the algorithm, getting me followers, getting comments, people like it. I'm like, okay, I'm glad that this thing is so popular. It's like, but like push my others. Like,
Seriously. That
yes,
is
I was
so
like, push.
funny. I remember you bringing it up because we're in a group chat with some other Bookstagrammers, and I remember you bringing it up because somebody had posted it not so nicely to their Instagram stories, or like they kind of like did like a, what is it, when they chat about it, like I'm
Yeah,
blanking on all of my words tonight.
yeah, no, you're fine.
What is it called on TikTok when like is like something incoming, like if they're like they play a clip and then all of a sudden like they start
Or
talking?
like they stitch
Stitch,
it.
Stitch
Yes,
incoming. Yeah. This wasn't a Stitch, but it was like kind of that vibe. And I
yes.
just remember like, why would anybody post? Like, why would they take that? Like, this was like so supposed to be just like
I
lighthearted. And,
feel like people just take
yeah,
like the whole process of smut or romance readers, and that they find this, they want to make it seem like you're cheating or you're
right.
like they want to make it something that's not. I'm like, these are fictional books, this is not real. Like
Exactly.
my husband, honestly, like when I became a mom, I got sucked into that life really
Right.
hard, and like I had no hobbies. I didn't have nothing for just me. And so, and I am dyslexic, so I never like really enjoyed reading growing up. Like I did, but I didn't. And so when I had just like my boss, basically, she was like, "Hey, why don't you try this book?" And I was like, "You know what? What's it gonna hurt?" And like it just became an outlet for me. And then like now it's grown into like my whole personality. So
I love it. And I similarly, like, was not a big reader until my adult life. In fact, like I have a family of readers. Like everyone in my family, mom, dad, sister, growing up, always were reading, and I was just like the kid who just had no desire to read. And then I became an adult, had kids. I was up late at night all the time with my daughter, and like late at night, you're not wanting to put a TV on. You want
yeah,
the baby to go back to sleep. And so I was just like, I just started reading and reading and reading and reading like crazy, which led me to Bookstagram because I was like, I want to be with people. I want to chat. I want to share my reviews. So
yes,
even though Bookstagram was a thing, a Facebook group for like similar book recommendations, people started sharing their Instagram handles. And I was like, wow, these are all like book handles. Like
yeah,
these aren't personal, like,
Oh, I know, because like
account.
you see so much about book talk, even like Drew Barrymore just had a big book talker on her
Yes.
page, and like they talk about, but they don't talk about Bookstagram. I said, in my opinion, yes, the book talk community is pretty big, but Bookstagram has a lot, and like a lot of authors prefer Bookstagram because I feel like you can get more personal with authors and just other followers. And I think that's also another thing that helps grow a page is just being engaging with the people you
Yes.
come across on your book page. Like, I mean, you and I connected through
Yeah.
our group chat that Brittany
Yeah.
made up. So, like, it's crazy how many people you just kind of connect with in this community. And
Exactly.
I mean, you just don't know.
And the way I
So,
think about it, or at least my experience with, I know everybody's experience is different with Book Talk and Bookstagram, and it can really honestly be impacted. I'm going to say that word algorithm so many times tonight, but like it can be impacted by the algorithm. But for me, I see on Book Talk the same creators over and over again, the same book recommendations over and over again. Where on Bookstagram, I see a wider variety. I don't know if it has to do with the algorithm. I don't know if it has to do with my involvement, my engagement on Bookstagram versus Book Talk, because I haven't never found my group on Book Talk. But as an author, I would imagine that your book would have a bigger chance of reaching a bigger audience on Bookstagram. But what do I
yes.
know?
Well,
What do
that
I
and
know?
too, Instagram, since it's owned by Meta, it also connects it to Facebook Reels. So
Yes,
you're not just connected on Instagram, you're also connected to Facebook. And
right.
so, like, when you have, like, obviously, I have a big page, so it is like a professional page.
Right.
So, like, everything that I post, most of the time, it gets posted to Facebook too. I have to watch that though, because I need to make sure some of those stuff don't get on my actual Facebook
Yeah.
profile. I do have to watch that.
I don't know how you can control that, but same. I have like a verified account too, and lately I've been finding a lot of people find me on their FYP, like their For You page. Is they're like, you popped up, and I like came to you from my personal account, and then I was like, let me switch over to my Bookstagram account because like you popped up on my page, and I was like, wow, like that's crazy how much more of a reach Bookstagram has
Yes, yes, I
than
agree.
awesome. All right, well. Thanks for answering that question. Oh wait, I think I got a second part to that question. It was what do you think made that post blow up? 12 whatever
See,
million view post blow up. Wish we
it's
were followers.
I know, I wish it was too, yeah. It's so hard to know because like you said, the algorithm is so weird. Like I have videos that I've probably posted in the last 2 weeks that have only like 1,000 views.
Right, right.
So like I honestly think it might have just hit the algorithm right. A lot of readers connected to what I had to say because in the comments, that's where I noticed everyone's like, "Yeah, girl, I'm with you. Like you're right. Oh, give me the list of those books that you have." And like engaging into those comments also helps that push that. Like when people are commenting and people are liking and people are sharing this with their friends, that just really pushes it. And Instagram picks it up in the algorithm. And I think that just blew it up because so many people are related to what I was saying in the video. And they're like, oh, yeah, same here. So relatable is, I would say, the biggest thing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the more like engagement, like you said, the post gets, the likes, the comments, that's just
Yes.
gonna keep popping it up on people's pages and like pushing it. All right. Pink, green, orange, or purple?
Let's do pink again.
All right. PINK. And I feel like I need to like link directly your viral post in addition to
Yeah.
your info on the caption so people can be like, what is she talking about? And they can just find
Oh,
it.
yeah. We'll have to post that.
1, 4, 5, or 8.
Let's do 4.
4. All right. Question number 4. Tell us a little bit about the behind the scenes of your creation process. So, like, what does it look like? Because what people see in posts typically isn't the behind the scenes. Like there's editing that goes into it, there's planning that goes into it, there's silly outtakes and things. Like what is your creation process like behind the scenes?
So behind the scenes, I wouldn't say like I have planned out content. Sometimes I'll see like trends or some things that I would relate to. I'm like, I could do this, but put my own spin on it. And like, I'll
Right.
save those ideas. But when I get to the time I make it, honestly, I kind of just go with the flow, go with what I'm feeling that day. So I basically film like right where I'm sitting at. This is my little book nook area, but I film with natural light. I don't use a ring light. I don't because my room thankfully has really nice natural light. So I try to open up all my windows and let the natural sun come in. But I really just kind of vibe, sometimes I will film just me dancing around to a song or just dancing around, and then I'll go back in like a week or so. I'm like, this song is trending right now. I'm gonna throw this book with it. Like, oh, y'all should read this. Or if it's in a book that I'm currently reading, like, hey, I'm currently reading this, just kind of just going with the flow, really. The only thing I was doing pretty consistently was the drink outfit book reels.
Yes. Yes.
So I was doing quite a bit of those. I haven't filled one in a while recently, but life's just been a little busy.
Yes.
But those are kind of like my behind the scenes, I guess. Some days
Yeah.
I try to get my husband to be a part of more of my content making because he comes in here. I do it while my daughter naps, and he'll come in during, it's like the lunch break. He'll come in here and he looks at me. I was like, hey, you want to be in the video? He goes, no. I'm slowly going to get him in. No, I promise.
That is so funny. I love that. And I am similar. Like I make a lot of content in bulk and then I schedule a lot out. I probably should focus more on trending audio and stuff like that. I just usually it's easier for me to just schedule it out and then I don't have to think about it again. When Meta is working with me and actually posting my scheduled posts, which is like 50% of the time, but it is helpful to like schedule and like to record or to create like a bulk and then just like have it ready to go and
I
have
will
this
say, I have never scheduled a post yet.
okay.
No, I think that like I was part of an influencer group on Instagram. So like that was the only time I had a scheduled post because like we were doing a joint giveaway that had to
Right.
be posted at the same time. So that was the only time I ever, but most of my stuff I will sit there and post myself because the one thing I have learned with being a content creator on the Bookstagram field is that like if you just have it scheduled and post, but you're not actively live,
Right.
it does not help your stuff to get put out there. So like
No.
I've learned being engaging 15-20 minutes before you even post,
Yeah.
posting your stuff,
Yep.
and then engaging still 15 to 20 minutes after, and when I say engaging, that doesn't mean just liking or, I'm saying like liking, commenting,
Comment.
sharing stuff to your page. Like I DM so many girls throughout on a daily
Yeah.
basis, you know,
Exactly.
being even personable on your page, asking questions on your stories,
Yes.
so
You
yeah, so
have to
that's why.
you have to engage. Engagement is what's going to drive any type of growth on Bookstagram. So if you are in it and wanting to grow and your focus is that and you're like, why am I not growing? Like you have to be engaging. You have to like you said, it can't just be likes, it has to be comments, shares, DMs. Like you just have to be active and not prescriptive on it.
Yes. I will say though, I have like obviously since my page has grown so fast within less than a year, I don't post like when I was first starting out, I was posting 3 times a day. I
Right.
was getting it. And now I'm like now slowly starting to go down to like 2 to 3 days. I'm posting unless I have like a really like a book's about to be published and I
Right.
want to get my ARC
Right.
review out, but I only try to mainly post on my most popular days with my followers and like
Yep.
most active times because
I
that
love
also helps. That way you're not fighting the algorithm so much and feel like your stuff is flopping and it's not
yeah.
reaching your people.
Yeah, that is true. That is nice to look at those insights and to be aware of
Yes,
like you said, the popular times and days and when people are most engaging with your content as well. It's a lot to keep track of if you're wanting
it
to
is.
do it as
It's
like
a full. It's basically a
yeah,
full-time
it can be a
job.
full-time job. So that's why it can get overwhelming. Some people are in the Bookstagram world just because they want to read, post, and connect. And then others like want to grow and, build an audience. So it just depends on what you're looking for. If you are looking to grow and build an audience, it can be as consuming as you want it to be. And there's such thing as burnout. So taking breaks and remembering that it's fun for reading is also very important. But a lot of my questions for Gloria have to do with like growing your Instagram page and stuff like that. But that does not mean that if you have a Bookstagram, you have to be focusing on growing your page. This is just a lot of the
Oh yeah, no.
conversation that we're
And
having.
I think too, it's hit or miss when it comes to that. Because like me, like yes, everyone who creates a page, they want that following, they
Yes,
want that, but like you can't get lost in the side of it. Oh no, this is not getting the views, this is not getting the likes. It's not. You know, Obviously every creator goes through that, and I did a
right,
little bit, and I was like, okay, I need to like rethink this. I started this page because I love reading.
right,
I started this because I wanted to connect with other readers, and I've done that, and I've excelled doing that. I've connected with so many authors. It's crazy. And so I always just try to look at the bigger picture. Like, I don't need 100,000 followers and my videos getting 10 to millions of views every time, like people like my content. I get so many DMs like, oh my God, like I saw your story, like your,
Yeah.
what you recommended, what you're reading. Like I loved it. Like I love getting messages like that all the time.
Yes, absolutely. That's what's so fun about it is like when people connect with you um
Yes.
in your DMs and like they read a book that you recommended and then you can chat about it with them. Like that's like the fun, like rewarding part because that's the community piece that we all want.
It's crazy thing is a lot of them are followers who aren't bookstagrammers. They're just
Yeah,
normal people who I come
normal
across.
account.
They
Right.
follow me because they're like loving my recs and my reviews and,
Yeah.
because I get personal on my stories.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. That's what's so fun and rewarding about it.
Yes.
Obviously, the bigger your page is, the more volume of that you'll have. But it's all about what you want from Bookstagram.
Yeah.
Green, orange, purple, or pink.
Let's do orange.
Orange. All right. Oops, I'm doing that again. ORANGE. 1, 5, or 8, because you just did question 4.
Let's do 1.
All right. Question number 1. Okay, I just asked, but I messed up a little bit and switched something around. Here we go. Okay. What is your current read? What are you currently reading? I know that this is going to be posted after we're chatting, so you'll probably have the review up by the time this is posted. But what are you currently reading?
I'll just show you. So I'm currently reading the Home Run Proposal on KU, but I'm
Yeah.
also doing an audiobook. It's Jasper. So this one is by Maren Moore, and then Jasper is by Lulu Moore. I'm actually getting to meet both of them in February in Phoenix. So I'm trying to like read a bunch of authors who I haven't read before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but I'm a big sports romance girly, so they're both. One's a hockey romance, this is a baseball romance, but they're so good.
That is awesome. That is really exciting. And then what is your top read? Like, what is your favorite book? If you have one, like, what would that be?
Would you say like top this year or like just in
It could be
general?
that. It could be ever. It could be this year, however you want to take it.
A book that like I feel like really solidified my reading journey was, which not the book I first started out with, but the book that I feel like I read it and I was just like, I love this. It was Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score.
Yes.
First of all, that entire series, I loved it.
So good.
Like that book series, I think that was probably the longest book I had read getting into my reading journey. And I read it in a physical book. I didn't have a Kindle yet. I never thought I'd be a Kindle girly until like later into my reading journey. But I devoured that entire series.
I love that. It's such a good series too. So
It is so
good.
good.
That's awesome. All right. Orange, purple, pink, or green?
Let's do purple.
Purple. All right. PURPL. Never mind. All right, try that again. That's the first time I've ever thrown a paper fortune teller. PURPLE. 2, 3, 6, or 7. You already answered 3 and 7. So 2 or 6.
Let's do 6.
Let's do question 6. All right. Question number 6 is all right. This is a new thing I'm trying with you. Well, this whole thing is new, but this is a new type of question, and it's hot or not. So let's play hot or not, but make it Bookstagram trends. So, do you think it's hot or not to post negative reviews or like 1-star reviews or DNF reviews? Not. I agree. Hot or not?
I have to like, here's a little thing though. I don't think you should post and tag the author. No.
Right.
I do think you could get in your stories and be like, this was not for me,
Right.
keep it like
Right.
simple and clean. Only reason I say this because I actually just recently did this, one of my stories this past week. But like, and I wasn't saying anything bad.
Right.
I was just like, this just wasn't for me. And so, but I would never post or tag an author. I personally feel bad when I don't like an author's book that has like reached out to me and like, oh, will you read this and review it? Because like I've had that happen to me twice. I'm like, I love the author. They're so sweet. They're so nice. I'm like, I just couldn't get into the book.
Right.
That kills me on the inside.
Yes. Yeah. It's hard. I'm such a mood reader that happens more than you would think. And it doesn't mean that I won't like revisit the book and like go back and try it and read it, but like if the mood's not striking me when I'm reading it, I will like put it aside and stop reading it and maybe like come back to it once like that trope is something that I'm looking for or like whatever. But yeah, so I don't mind people posting it, but just like don't tag the author if it's something
Yes.
negative.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So another hot or not question I have for you, hot or not, the what is I'm gonna say it wrong. Hot or not, the discreet covers versus the men covers, is that what they're called? Like with the hot men on the front? Like which ones do you prefer?
I prefer discreet covers.
Me too. Yeah. I would say discreet covers are hot. And
Yeah, they think they do it so cute because sometimes they're just like little graphics. And then sometimes not saying there's nothing wrong with the men on your covers. I have some covers in here with some men on them. But
right.
if I'm going to go pick one, I'm going to go with the cutesy, like discreet cover.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. Let me try to think of one more. I only had two planned, but I feel like doing one more. Hot or not? That's hard. This is getting harder because the Bookstagram trends change so much.
So much.
All the time. By the time this airs, I don't know if I'll be right on the trends. Hot or not? Okay, arcs that only give you 1 to 3 days to turn around a review. Not, yeah.
I luckily have not came across an arc that
Really?
has done that.
I get some that are like, you are, like, they tell you ahead of time, like, you will have 72 hours. And it's usually
No.
for, like, big authors, like, back when Cora Riley would do arcs, now she doesn't do arcs anymore because of pirating, which is another not hot thing, is pirating.
That's so. I don't know who would ever want to do that.
I know. It's crazy. But I have had a few where it was like, heads up, like only say that you can read this if you like have a quick turnaround because they don't want it to have much time to be like pirated. But those are books that are like highly anticipated, highly sought
Yeah.
after,
See, I feel like that's more reasonable for like a beta reader, which I have not done. I've not beta read anything. Not saying I wouldn't want to, but just haven't given the opportunity.
Yeah.
But I probably would find it that a little intimidating because most of the time, like, you don't know when arcs are going to come out. You can apply for it and then, like, okay, you apply for it, but you might not get it for like 2, 3 more weeks. You might not get it for like 4 more weeks. And so then, like, oh, hey, you're getting it at midnight this night. And you're like, okay, I'm in like middle of 3 different books right now. Or like me who reads 2 books at once. I'm like, hold on, like, I still have like 400 pages of this one book I'm reading. Like, I'm not going to I can't stop a book mid book and then jump into another book. So, like, my OC doesn't allow me to do that.
No, same. Exactly. Or I'm never coming back to the book I left. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was fun. Next time I'm going to have more hot or not options for trends. Orange, purple, pink, or green?
Let's do green.
Green. Green. I feel like I did not write that number down. We'll find out. Okay. The last one you have for this group is question number 8. Would you like to answer question number 8?
Let's do it.
Let's answer question 8. Okay. Question number 8 is, what is your most controversial romance book trope that you enjoy? Or opinion in general. What is your most controversial romance trope opinion?
That, like, I like or don't like?
It could be either way. Either way. Any opinion.
So, I actually just recently kind of came across this in a book that I was kind of just telling you that I talked about in my stories. I think that sometimes, which is very rare, I've never said this, but there can be too much in a book. Like too much spice, too much, and it not have any plot.
Right.
Like, some people like, oh, there can never be too much, but like, I was doing this book on audiobook, and I found myself fast forwarding. And I was just like, I was like, it's one thing for it to be, spicy, but for it to make my ears burn, I was like, okay, now I was like, I think this is just a little too much. And it made it, like I said, and it was crazy. It's just that this book was like massively viral. People loved it. It was really top, which I don't mind to say the name, but it was Pucking Around by Emily Rath.
Yeah.
And I found out that I was not the only reader who experienced that with this book, because I was kind of like, I have one of her books. I was like, do I continue this series or do I Like, I don't know. And everyone's like, no, this is her spiciest. Like,
It's so
if you want to,
spicy. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's
it was
a thick
very,
book. That is a thick book. Yeah.
I got to chapter 69, which is how I got
Really?
to, yeah, ironically. And I was messaging one of my friends and I was like, look, I was like, this is like your favorite book. I was like, where can I skip to that's like a storyline? So she told me what chapter to skip. This book was 105 chapters to begin with.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was so long. And I skipped to the chapter she told me to skip. And I was just like, you know what? I want to be done with this book, but I've already invested like over a week of my time doing this audio. So I jumped to the epilogue and I was like, okay, did the epilogue and I was like, I'm just done. And yeah, I was just like, this book just is not for me. Because I had so many girls, they're like, oh my gosh, this book is like one of my favorite. And I'm like, wasn't for me.
Yeah. And that just depends. I feel like everyone is so different with preferences, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I personally love fucking around. It was really long. Like, I remember I am like a person who's like a 300 pager, 300 to 350 is like a sweet spot for me, attention wise, because I have
Yes.
ADHD. So the longer books can be like hard for me. I love fucking around, but there's other like thick books that I love as well. But it has to like really like motivate me to get me through it. But like what you were saying about the smut level, there are some books. I agree with you. Like, you want there to be like a
Like a storyline. You still want to
yeah,
like,
like a ratio of like plot to spice and
yes,
stuff like that. But there are times where I will recommend a book that is like just straight smut, and I make sure I let people know, like, FYI, like The Naughty List by Jade West is one of her Christmas novellas, or it's not even a novella, it's like one of her Christmas books, and she'll be coming on my pod soon. But that's like straight smut. Like, you're not reading that for like a hardcore plot that's gonna make you like,
yeah.
guess and wonder and like, flip the next page wondering what's going to happen to this couple. Like, you're reading that book because like of the smut. Like,
Yeah.
so I think
And
it
like,
depends
I,
on the
I
book.
could have done it wrong because I did it on audio and
Oh,
like,
yeah.
so anyone who's read Pucking Around, you have Kay, Jake,
Yeah.
and Mars.
Yeah.
So for the narrator, Jake and Kay were the same narrator. They never
Mhm.
changed. So like when you were jumping to their perspective, I was like, hold on, this is the same
That would
voice.
be
And
hard.
like, yeah, and so like it kind of threw me a little bit, and I just like, I don't know. I was actually made a comment about this on my story the other day because like, you know, audiobooks they want to act it out a little bit, and that's fine. Not, no, you don't, I don't recommend the audiobook. I think maybe if I had just read the book, maybe I would have
Right.
been able to liked it a little bit better, but the
Right.
audio just, they like, unfortunately, it was just the audio was there, and I was like, yeah, I was supposed to be meeting her in Phoenix as well, but she's no longer attending
Yeah.
now.
That would be better.
So I was
She's
like,
awesome in person. Yeah.
I know. So I was like, yeah, I was like, well, it's okay. I'll read through it.
But yeah, so there are ways, like, people don't realize, but like I'm an audio girly too. Like, I'm always reading a book. Like, my friend calls it eyeball reading. If Nora's watching, eyeball reading a book, and then I'm always listening to a book also, depending on like what I'm doing. And if I'm working, I'm listening to a book. If I'm walking, I'm listening to a book. But if I'm like laying in bed, I'm reading a book. It can make or break the experience though. So some books are so freaking amazing in audiobook. Like, there's a book called Them Bones by A. Atkins. And it is like, I am so glad I listened to it on audio. The narrator was freaking amazing. They're both coming on my show soon.
I actually just added it to my TBR because I saw you post about that on your recommend.
I
Because
won't do third person. Like, I have the heart. I can only listen to third person, but
same,
this book is not your typical third person. Like, it is so good. And it's third person for a reason. And I learned that towards the end of the book, so I won't say anything to spoil it. But it had to be third person, and I learned that. And so I'm so glad I listened to it. And I would highly recommend listening to it. The narrator for it, her name is Jessie Elwin. She's freaking fabulous. She is actually going to be she won in a contest, like, for narrators. Like, she won
wow.
this, like, for audiobooks narration, and so they'll be coming on together, and they're both amazing, and I can't wait to talk to her because she'll be the first narrator to ever come onto my show.
That's so exciting.
So the experience can make or break it, like the audio versus like reading it, traditionally reading it. Because then there's some books, like you just brought up, like, that I'm thinking like, oh my God, I would not be able to listen to it on audio just because of like certain things, like even the certain nicknames. I'm like, I don't want to hear the nickname, but I can read.
I legit caught myself, I'm like, oh, I need to turn this down a little bit. Like,
Yeah. I recently was listening to Lights Out because you all were talking about it in the book chat. And so I started
Yes.
listening to it, and I was walking my morning walks, and I kept passing couples walking, and we would be crossing paths, and I kept turning it down because I was like, oh my gosh, like,
I know you're outside my headphones.
yeah, and it was like so spicy, like all the scenes were so spicy, and I was like, and like I never get uncomfortable.
That
That was
audiobook
like
though,
a lot.
that audiobook, the dialogue though was so like that's in my top 5 audiobooks for this year. Like we did that for my book club for the month of October, and I was the only one who did it on audio. And I told the girls, I was like, oh no, because like he has a voice modulator. So like
Yes,
obviously when you read that you can't hear that. I was like, oh, let me go to the scene with the voice modulators if you need
yes,
to hear this. I said
yes.
it was so
So
good,
good.
so
Yeah,
good.
it
And I
was
can't, I'm wanting to do her second book that's about to come out next year on audio too, because I imagine it's going to be just as good because of how well Lights Out blew up.
exactly. I'm excited. She's like, I follow her now on Instagram after reading it or listening to it, but whatever. And she's like meeting a deadline. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait for the next book. But that was when that was like, I'm so glad I listened to it, even though like there were parts where I was like, I don't want to listen to them in public, but it was so good to listen to it. And there's others too that I've listened to, and I'm like, I think if I wouldn't have listened, I wouldn't have finished. But also that's probably the same way with like vice versa. Like there's some books that if I would have listened to it, I might not have like loved the narrators, and I probably wouldn't have finished it.
Well, too, now audiobooks are becoming so popular right now. And so I love it when you have it's a duet. It's not
Yes.
the
Yeah.
woman trying to do the male's voice,
Right.
it's her perspective. I love, because I've done like Leather and Lark,
Yes.
and Blackbird. Gosh, those are phenomenal audios as well. And so, and I feel like when I jump to like older recorded audios,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I kind of have a type on an audio.
Exactly. You like the dual narration.
Yes.
I will say that I do too. I like the dual narration, just like I like dual point of view books when I'm reading them. But with Them Bones, it's third person, so it's all told by the female narrator, the only narrator.
Yeah.
But it works because it's third person, which for me to be hyping up a third person book as much as I'm hyping it up should speak volume, because my brain just doesn't typically work in third
Where
person.
did you listen to it at, if you don't mind me asking? Like, was it like Libby, Hoopla, or Audible?
Audible, because I always
Audible.
have like Audible credits, which now I ran out. I never thought I'd meet the day where I'd run out of an Audible credit. But I did download it on Audible. Yeah. And it's A. Atkins' debut book, which is just like, I cannot understand that. I don't believe it, actually. It's just, if you read it, listen to it or whatever, let me know what your thoughts are, because
I'll have to let you know.
have not had anyone go and read it after I've said that. That if they haven't reported back to me. So anyways, I'm
I'll have
excited.
to keep you updated.
Okay. Orange, purple, pink, or green?
See pink.
All right. And we only have question 2 or 5 left. PINK. 2. Would you like to answer question 2?
Let's do 2. Yeah.
Let's do this question.
Yeah.
So let's start listing random ones. All right. Question number 2. What is the last 5-star review that you gave?
So this one was for an indie author that I'm going to meet at a book con in February, March next year. Her name is Izzy Elliott. I'm pretty sure this is her debut book.
Wow.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not familiar with her books just yet, but
Okay.
it's called My Pucking Mate by Izzy Elliott, obviously. So I'm really bad about going into books blindly when I see a hockey stick, because I'm a sucker. Hockey romances are just, I don't know why, I just love them.
Yes.
And so, and me and another girl who are going to this book event together, we are trying to buddy read some of these new authors that we haven't read before. And so she picked the book, and I was reading it, and he called himself immortal, and I was like, hold on. I was like, what? I was like, I thought he was a hockey player. Like, and then I realized it was a paranormal romance. So he's a werewolf. He's a werewolf. Yes. It completely threw me, but I loved it. It was
Awesome.
and it is a quick read. It was like only 263 pages, maybe 236. I'm not 100% sure, but the book, it's going to have a continuation, because like the book leaves you off in a cliffhanger. So her book 2 is actually about to come out, I think, in a couple weeks. And so I'm super excited to get my hands on that because it was so good. For I've never read a werewolf romance. Like I've read a Fated Mate because like I've done ACOTAR before, but I've never done like something like this, and I ate it up. It was so good.
Oh, I'm intrigued. I
It
always
was
go into books blind. I am your typical judge a book by its cover. Like, oh, I like your cover. Even if it could be like
yes.
it could be the most like it doesn't tell you anything about the cover. I'm like, oh, I like that. I like stars. I like the moon. I'm gonna read that, and I will go in completely blind. 100%. I just love going to books blind. That's been my new thing lately. Where like before I was always like reading, clicking through reviews and like trying to figure out if it was like what I was in the vibe for. Now I'm like, just give me a pretty cover book. Let me try it. And if I'm vibing with it, I'm gonna read it.
Honestly, TikTok is where I get all my book reviews because people will post like the little clippets of like the book,
Yes.
and then they say it's
Yes.
hockey romance. I'm
Yes.
like, I always comment on it, adds to my ever never ending TBR, add
Right.
to TBR.
I have to ask you, since we're on the topic of hockey romance, I feel like the hockey trope is one that blew up in the romance world, right?
Yes.
So like that has been pretty significantly big for like the last, I would say over a year. I would say 2 years personally. That's been a pretty big trope, and trend wise has been huge. Do you think it's fizzling? Do you think that the romance market is like saturated with hockey, or do you think like it would just never be, that could never happen?
You're asking someone who's a little biased.
Yeah.
I personally think that it's never ending. I feel like so many authors have so many other ideas, and of course, when you're a romance reader, most of the books have the same formats.
Of
So like
course. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
they meet or it's a sibling,
Mhm.
and they have tension and then the build up and then they get together and then there's conflict and then they resolve it and then they get their happily ever after. Because I have to have my happily ever after for sure.
And you might not want to read all the books that I recommend.
But I will say, like, I didn't start out reading hockey romance. I started out with Colleen Hoover, Lucy Score, and so my first hockey romance that I read was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, which is a big book that blew up. And that book was so good. I read it back to back. It was my most top read book I read last year. I read that book back to back because I was like, I finished it and I was like, oh, I missed it already. So I went back and read it again.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with it. And then like the obsession, like I said, my friend Maddie, her and I are just like book besties. We kind of read a lot of the same. So we went into Becca Mack, Rebecca Genshak, deep dived into Liz Tom Ford. It just spiraled outside of there. And it's not just strictly hockey. Hockey is my main go-to. And I don't even know why. I don't watch hockey. I do now watch hockey. I do now because like
Same.
I told my husband, I
Yeah.
was like, I read so much about it. Like I'm going to 2 hockey games next year. So I'm like,
Love
my
it.
husband thinks I'm crazy. He goes, "You read books. You're not a hockey fan." I'm like, "No." I was like, "They do have like
Yeah.
scenes in the book where there's a
Yeah.
full on game going." I was like,
Absolutely.
"I know what a wrist shot and some of the link."
You start to learn more about like the
Yes,
stuff. Yeah,
yes. Because like these authors do their research,
they
and a
do.
lot of them are fans of the sport. Most of them are like, "Oh, I'm a big hockey fan," so like that's why they want to write about it.
Right.
So yeah,
I love that. I was the same way. I got into hockey about like a year and a half ago, the hockey romance trope, and then I was like, okay. I always like enjoyed ish hockey, like watching it, and then I was like, well, now I love hockey and I have them on
yes.
recording, and there's so many games a week and all this stuff. But yeah. So what would you predict is the next trope to blow up like hockey did?
Don't
I can't think
know.
of an answer to that, so it's okay if you don't have an answer to that. Somebody was talking to me the other day, an author, and they were like, "What do you think is going to be the next trope to blow up like hockey did?" And I was like, I don't know.
Honestly, though, I could kind of like because hockey's like more of a genre too, though. That's what's so hard.
Yes,
It is
yeah,
a trope, but it's also like
you're
in that
right. It's more
sports.
of the genre because it's like the bigger.
Yeah, I would say though, so like I do like hockey romance. One thing I like about it though is like I said, I'm a mood reader, so like I can do
Yeah,
small town, I can do dark romance. So sometimes if I want to get out of my hockey. I'll go read a dark romance or do a rom-com or do a small town. But if I don't like it, I'm like, well, I need to go back to my Roman Empire, which is going to be a hockey
Yeah.
romance. Can never be disappointed with something in that line.
Right.
But yeah, if I had to pick a trope though, I think fake dating has really grown over the
It
last year.
has. Yeah, it has. It's gotten very big. You're right. Where I think it used to be like the boss trope,
Yes.
or
I couldn't tell
like
you the last time I read one of those.
yes, yeah, yeah. So that's the fun of being a mood reader is you just kind of cycle through all of the things, all of the trends. All right, for fun, will you entertain me in one last round of Paper
Yes.
Fortune Teller before we move on to our nostalgic game? Even though we know you have to choose question number 5. Okay, pink, green, orange, or purple?
Do pink.
Pink. Pink. Would you like to answer question number 5? All right, question number 5. Who are your top 3 favorite authors?
So my top 3 favorite authors is one. Now my number 1 is Rebecca Genscher.
Okay.
I have read 17 of her books this year.
Oh my God,
No, I didn't realize I had read that many.
that is
And
amazing.
it's so crazy because like I connected with her with DM. She follows me on my page. We're friends on Goodreads. Like fangirled when all that was happening to me on my page.
That is
Another author is gonna be Lucy Score, and like I would say like I have her on my list because like she's her I read almost a lot of her books when I first started reading. She does have a book coming out next year that I'm looking forward to read as well. But she was kind of like my intro, so I'm like
yeah,
she's my girl.
yeah.
And then my third is actually an indie author who I connected with over this year. Her name is Ruth Stilling. She is about to release her 4th book at the beginning of the year. Is sports romance, but her first book was my first advanced reader copy I got. And she's so sweet. Me and her DM, we send voice memos.
Yeah.
She lives in London, so it's really hard to
Yeah.
connect, connecting with someone who lives on the other side of the
Right.
world for me. I'm
Right.
actually getting to meet her in Minnesota next year. So
What?
I know. So I connect, like, she's one of my faves because I got to connect with her just on like an intimate level. Like, we were saying, almost, and she's like, she's got the British accent. I'm a sucker for a British accent. And she's like, I can't wait to squeeze you. I was like, I can't wait to squeeze you.
That is awesome. Very
Yes.
exciting. And those are 3 authors who I'm familiar with Lucy Score, but I definitely am adding the other 2 to my list to check out their books because that sounds like I would love that.
Yeah, Rebecca Genchak, she's been on the self-published side for a lot. She's actually has a book coming out at the end of this year that is being published through Bloom. It
Oh,
is a young adult romance. So for all the
nice.
youngies listening or that want to listen, and this is a
Yeah,
high school romance. So I am excited to read her newest book that's about to come out too.
that is awesome. Very cool. And that's exciting for her. Okay, so we're at the part of the show, the final segment where you get to choose a nostalgic game that's going to have a bookish twist. And your options are Mash, Never Have I Ever, Truth or Dare, Two Truths and a Lie, or Would You Rather?
Let's do MASH because I played MASH all the time as a kid.
All right, perfect. So this is going to be Mash with a bookish twist. So, for those who are not familiar with MASH, MASH is the abbreviation for mansion, apartment, shack, or house. It's a fun game that we would play when we were younger to predict. Oops, as I throw in my pen. What is going on with me today? To predict our futures with our crushes. So we're going to put a bookish twist to this. And oops, I'm writing the wrong thing because I have a hard time talking and writing. So for the categories, you're going to have MMC, FMC, careers for both, number of kids, and then book tropes. And then we're going to throw it all together. So you can take this in 2 different directions. It's up to you. You can either put actual like FMCs and MMCs that you've read. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, male main characters, female main characters that you've read, or you can just like come up with your own names and we are going to create like an imaginary book. And then that's how we're going to go from here. So when we were younger, like, I think, depending on how you played, but like you would pick 2 and then I would pick 1, or you would pick 3 and I would pick 1. We're going to do, you pick 2 for each category and I pick 1. And at the end, we'll do the spiral thing where you tell me to stop and I'll start slashing and come up with our results. All right. So, main male character names.
Let's do Tyler.
Okay.
Jack.
Okay. And then I will do, because I'll do the third, I'm going to say Troy. I don't know where it's coming from. Troy. All right, female main character names.
Let's do Emma.
Indy.
Indy. N-D-Y.
Okay. I will do Zoe. Okay. And then main male character's career.
And then I guess we can also just do, let's just do billionaire, because who doesn't love a billionaire?
Exactly.
CEO, whatever.
Yeah, they're always the CEO of something
yeah.
enterprises.
Billionaire CEO, that's the same. They fall in the same thing.
Exactly. Okay, and then I will do, I'm going to switch it up in the sports category, and I'm going to put rugby player, because I still think about and still want to reread The Binding 13, because it's such a good, so good.
I have not. I started that on audio, and then I realized that I could not do that on audio. So I'm like, okay.
I would not want to do that one on audio. I would totally recommend eyeball reading.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to DNF it. We're just going to take it off and put it back to the TBR.
Yeah, because that way, like, you don't get into it too far and it's like just ruined for you.
Yeah.
That book is a really fun one just to like read traditionally.
Yes, I've seen so many reviews about it. Career lawyer.
Okay.
And let's do a nurse.
Lawyer, nurse, and I'm going to say teacher. Oops. Okay. And then number of kids. And 0 is okay if you say 0.
Let's do 2 and 3.
2 and 3. I will put 0. And then tropes. So you get to pick 2 tropes, and I'll pick 1 trope.
Brother's best friend. And let's do forced proximity.
I will do second chance romance. I always tell people, so if you've watched this podcast for a while, you're going to be annoyed with me, but I love all of the red flag, like controversial tropes. Like people either love them or hate them. Not controversial, like political or anything, but like tropes that you are either like very pro team or no team. And those for me, I think, and I could be missing some, so you'll have to tell me if there's some that you're not thinking about, but second chance romance, miscommunication trope, and accidental pregnancy are like, or the surprise pregnancy, whatever you want to call it, my faves. Like I will instantly reads. But a lot of people are like, no, don't give me those. Am I missing any other like super controversial tropes?
Slow burn can sometimes be controversial.
Yeah,
but I think it just depends on how slow the burn.
How slow is that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like if it's 80% of the book is slow burn, and then you get the last 10% of like spice, you're like, we built it up all for this.
I'm one of those people who's like, I don't mind if it's slow burn, but don't force it to be slow burn. Like,
yeah,
don't
drag it out.
Yeah, too much extra to make it the slow burn. It has to feel like a little bit more of a natural slow burn. Okay, so I'm going to start doing the spiral thingy. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, this is going to help me count and slash and come up with our results. So I will start now, and you can tell me when to stop. Okay? So the number of, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's like the little dots, is 5. So I'm going to start slashing, and you can either chat about something if you want to, or I can ask you questions, or I can just make it go super like 2 times speed while I am doing all this slashing.
You can ask questions if you want. That's fine.
Okay. What book are you reading now?
Oh my goodness. So I'm kind of in a lucky spot right now that I can kind of pick my mood. I'm really not far into the Home Run Proposal by Mary Moore, so I really don't know what's fully in line. I do know what audiobook I'm going to do next, though, because I just used up all of my Audible credits this month. The little Laura Pavlo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
She's going to be at Wild and Windy when I go to meet her in Phoenix. She's on my list. I have Always Mine by her, which I know that just got published. through it. It's in the bookstores. So I have that audiobook, and then I also have Unsteady by Peyton Corinne, and she's going to be at Sports Romance Con next year that I'll get to meet. So those are the two like I know for sure I have lined up to read next. Eyeball read though, I don't know, I'm going to move read it probably.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I met her at Readers Take Denver, I think so. Yeah, she's great. That's awesome. Okay, have our results. I'm excited to share them with this imaginary book that maybe somebody's going to watch and then write. And it is They Live in a House. The male main character is named Jack. The female main character is Emma. Jack's job is a rugby player, and Emma's job is a teacher. They have one of them or both of them, or I don't know. There's 3 kids that exist in said imaginary book, and the trope is second chance romance. So
Ooh.
If you're watching this, let us know in the comments if this sounds like a book you'd read or a book that you'd stay far away from. And also let us know if you connected with anything Gloria shared. If you have any questions for Gloria, let us know in the comments or comment on the Bookstagram post that I shared this to. And we can always answer your questions. But definitely let us know what similarities you have when you're reading books, when you're posting content. We'd love to hear those. Any questions, like I said. But that was fun playing Mash with you. And thank you so much, Gloria, for joining me and letting me experiment with you as my first Bookstagrammer to come on the show. That was so fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
I could have talked to you for a whole nother hour just about books and recs and reviews and content.
Yes.
Such a good time. So maybe you can come back on. Maybe when Britt comes on, you can come back and
oh my God, that would be so much fun.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. But thank you again for coming on and entertaining me with that. I'm going to drop all of Gloria's her Instagram link to the caption so that you can connect. Or if you have a link tree, I'll probably drop the link tree link into the caption so people can connect with you and find you on socials or Goodreads or wherever they want to follow you. And then, yeah, is there anything you want to share with the viewers before we end this episode?
No, I just thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be your first Bookstagrammer on here. If anybody wants to follow me, my DMs are always open. I try to respond every day. But yeah, I love to yap about books and have fun.
Absolutely. And if you go follow Gloria at Gloria's Bookshelf, make sure you know you found her through the She's All Books podcast. And we like to track and see how many people hear about people from different things. So definitely give Gloria a follow, connect with Gloria, ask her questions, slide in her DMs. We love it. But thank you again for joining. And that is
thank you so much.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
All right, book besties, that's a wrap on this totally rad episode of She's All Books. If you're digging this vibe, don't be a square. Smash that subscribe button faster than you can say as if. Want to keep the convo going? Hit me up on social media at She's All Books. Drop a comment, share your fave book, or tell me what you want to hear next. I'm all ears. And hey, if you thought this episode was all that, spread the word. Tell your besties, your mom, even that cute barista at the local coffee shop. The more, the merrier. Stay tuned for the next episode, dropping Mondays at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be a blast. Until then, keep it real and keep on reading. See ya!